Hi class, so today we're going to be on lesson 14, which is about producing and printing consistent color. So when you are making documents in Photoshop, you can choose whether you want them to be in RGB mode or CMYK mode. And you would want to choose RGB mode if you were going to be viewing it only on a screen. And you would start out all your documents in RGB mode. But then if you were going to print it, you would want to switch it to CMYK mode at the last minute so that the colors that are on your screen are going to print well and print similar to what you would see on the screen on your actual paper. So keep in mind that when you're printing color versus looking at it on a screen you are mixing light values, but when you're printing it, you're actually mixing pigment values. And so those kinds of colors mix very differently, which you will learn more about in your color theory class. But in this lesson, we're going to just learn the basics about what to do to actually be able to print an image from Photoshop, because it's a little bit tricky. So you're going to go File Save As on this 14 start file, and you're going to call it 14 Working. And then you'll want to read through all of page 354. Before you send an image out for printing, you want to do what's called a zoom test. So you're going to go up to Image and Image Size, and you're going to look at your dimensions. So this one is 300 resolution. That's good. We want that when we're going to print. It's also, if I change it to inches, an 11 by 17 image. So that's in inches, and that's good. We want that. So when we print this, we would use an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, and it would look really good. So you want to zoom in on the photos on the lower third of the poster. Go ahead and click OK. So we're going to zoom in on the actual document. We're going to zoom into these photos down here. And if you look at the photo of the two tourists, it doesn't have a whole lot of contrast going on. It's flat and looks like the colors look a bit muddied. So we're going to go over to our tourist layer here, and we're going to get an adjustment layer. And we're going to use the curves layer. So if any of your images look dark like this one, you can use the curves layer. And then you want to clip this layer to the layer below it, so it's only applying to the tourist layer. So we're gonna do that right here at the bottom of the properties panel. So this will make that adjustment layer only affect the layer below it. It's also called a clipping mask. So you, on your curve setting, you're going to get the white point eyedropper tool, and then you're going to click on the white shirt of the person behind the tourist. And that's just going to brighten everything up. and it should go ahead and rebalance the color in the image. So the next thing we're going to do is go over to the statue, which is also looking pretty dark. We're going to select the statue layer this time, and we're going to give it a levels adjustment layer. So we're going to click levels, and then we can click that same little button to clip it only to the statue layer. So if you click on this little icon here, it will recalculate a more accurate histogram display. And then you're gonna drag the sliders. So you want the left slider to be at 31, the middle slider to be at 1.6, and the right slider is going to be at 235. Okay, so we're increasing our contrast. We're making sure on these images that we don't have any clipping going on, which is a spike in our white values at the end of the histogram. And then you can go ahead and save that. Okay, so this next couple of pages talks about color management. You want to read through that. Describes RGB versus CMYK that I was talking about. And then we're going to go up to Edit, Color Settings. So these are the possible color settings that you have to work with. If you were a print shop, you would really get into like the details of this. Typically, it's pretty safe to go with the North American pre-press 2. That's like the one that is recommended from this book. So you want to select North American pre-press 2 from the settings menu, and then click OK. So that's just how the printer and Photoshop talk to each other. And then we're going to see what colors in this image are out of print range. So a printer can't make all of the exact same colors that a screen can. And so you have to look at the image as though you were a printer and see which colors are going to be slightly off or impossible for a printer to print. So if you go to Fit Screen, and then you're going to go up to View and Gamut Warning. So this is going to turn on a warning filter that's going to tell you which color values are outside of the print range. So that's really important. So this wouldn't actually print well on a printer with these color settings because the blue value of the sky is not printable, and neither is this red value on the text. So our image would come out looking really funny. Anything that is neutral gray indicates where the document colors are outside of the CMYK gamut. So the blue areas and the red areas definitely wouldn't go very well. The gray is really hard to distinguish, so if you want to change that in your preferences, you can go up to Edit, Oh, sorry, this is. Here's preferences. You can go up to edit preferences and then you can choose transparency and gamut, and then you can actually change it to a different color if you want. Here it is. So the gamut warning is the color you would change, and you could change it to like a really annoying color so that you know where it's at. So see down in here, there's some that we didn't notice because it was gray, so that's gonna help you out. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to bring those colors that aren't gonna print well into a setting where they are gonna print well. And you can go ahead and turn off that preview, so uncheck the gamut warning box. So we're going to go up to the view menu, we're going to go to proof setup, and we're going to go to custom. Make sure the preview box is checked, and then we're going to go from the device to stimulant menu. This would match your specific printer. So if you don't see your printer on there, you're going to use working CMYK US web coded. So that's what you use if you just have a real basic printer. If you're a print shop, you might have some of these settings. Okay, make sure that relative colorimetric is selected on the rendering intent menu, and then select simulate black ink. If it's available. So most paper is not pure white, and so you can compensate for that as well in your printing, because that does affect it as well. Most black ink is not perfectly solid or neutral black, so black ink simulates the actual ink. Both get that information from the output profile. So you might see the preview look a little bit worse. But it's actually going to print better, if that makes sense. So it's kind of just being more honest about how the print is going to look. So if you toggle this preview on and off, you should see a pretty big difference in your color, right? And so what that's trying to simulate is this is the screen view and this is the print view. So that gives you kind of like a proof of what your print is going to look like. Okay, so now our next job is to actually bring these colors that are too bright for printing into a safe range for printing. So we're going to go up to the image menu. We're going to go down to duplicate and click OK. So we just made a copy of this whole document. Then you're going to go window, arrange to up vertical so you can see them side by side as you adjust. And right now, obviously, they're exactly the same. I want you to go to the original image, working PSD, and make it active, and then select the Visit Paris layer. And then you're going to go up to Select and Color Range. And up here, you're going to choose Out of Gamut Colors. So it's only going to show us the colors that are out, and those areas will be selected. So you can select all the colors in your image that are not going to print well. Okay, so just those colors are selected, and then you're going to go up to View. Make sure the Extras is unchecked, so we can't actually see all the marching ants. And then you're going to go to the Hue Saturation panel or adjustment layer. And it's going to create a layer mask from that only applies it to the out of gamut colors. Okay, and then the properties for that, you're going to just leave the hue setting where it's at. The saturation we're going to take down to -14. And the lightness, we're going to go -2. And now, if we view the gamut warning, it should have helped a lot. Like, see how our blue is fine now? The only out of gamut is down here on the statue. Okay, now go View, turn off the gamut warning, View, and turn your extras back on. Okay, now you can actually close, you can look at the difference, but you can close the duplicate image. You don't need to save it. And go ahead and save this one. Okay, so it's a good idea to work with RGB mode as long as possible until you're actually ready to print. And I think we're ready to convert this image to CMYK. So we're going to click on the Channels panel. So we know it's in RGB mode when we look at the Channels panel. And we're going to go up to Image Mode, and this is where you change it from RGB to CMYK when you're ready to print. Okay, now it's going to say it'll merge some adjustment layers. If you click Merge, so go ahead and click Merge. You are about to convert, and then OK. So now we've changed it to where it's in CMYK mode, and it's going to print better in this mode than it would in any other in RGB. So we're going to save it as a PDF to print. This is probably what you would want to do if you were going to send it to a print shop. So you would convert to CMYK, then you would go File, Save a Copy. And you would want to choose Photoshop PDF. When you're looking at the save settings on here, you can choose to save the layers or not. If you uncheck this, your file size will be much smaller, just so you know. So if you're looking to get a smaller file size, you can do it that way. But go ahead and save this as a PDF and click OK. And then when you get to this dialog box, you want to choose PDF X4 2008. You can ask your print provider which preset best matches their printing workflow. So if you have a printer that you're working with, you can do that. If not, I usually go with high quality print. That usually works pretty good. Okay, so here you can just save it as a PDF, and that's what I'm going to have you upload for today's lab. You can also print directly from Photoshop if you want to your printer. And to do that, there's some other settings that you can read about in here, but you're going to go File, Print. And then you would select your printer and all that layout. When you get down, so this is an 11 by 17 image, so you would want to use that kind of paper. You can set your color management, so printer manages color. You can set postscript options. And then you would just want to try printing it and see how it looks. So you really have to, if you're going to do it at home, you really have to test it and just play around with it until you're happy with the results.